Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 4 of the SkolChat. I am your host, Sam Wantock, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Ethan Decker. Ethan, it's been a long time since we've been able to talk together on the podcast, but it's great to be back together talking some Vikings.
Yeah, it feels good. After about a 2-week absence or whatever we had there, I had a little technical difficulties with the computer. Got that all figured out. We're back. Everything's working great. Just ready to touch up on some Vikings for you guys.
Exactly. So we're not going to go over all the news that has happened, but just we have 3 big points that we want to cover from the news articles. I think the biggest news that's happened since we've left was that we signed wide receiver D.D. Westbrook to a 1-year, $1.1 million deal. And the reason why this is such great news is that we both predicted that that Westbrook would be a great fit for the Vikings, and now it has happened.
Yeah. As you can remember from our little position video for us that we had, where we listed top 5 of our positions that we felt like were our biggest needs, and then we listed 5 free agents out there who we thought would fit best for the team. Obviously, I think both of us had D.D. Westbrook pretty high. Ended up coming true. The Keenan McCardell, our wide receivers coach, connection ended up coming to fruition, and it's a very solid signing. He adds a lot of speed in the slot there. He's looking like a natural punt returner for us as well, which is a good sign because obviously we could always use some more special teams help. But yeah, he's still recovering from a torn ACL, so he might be a little bit limited in the preseason, but hopefully come week 1. Once everything's settled there, give him another month until the opener, and everything should be good there.
Yes, I'm definitely really excited to see what he brings. I mean, at the very least, if he's not the third wide receiver, he brings a lot of depth to the team, which is very important, something we've lacked for a long time. And along the lines of predicting the future, we also had a very cool thing happen was that Chandler Jones wants to be traded away from the Cardinals. In the callback to our other episode again, that was our I think it was both our number 1 option for like a edge rusher move to replace Stephen Weatherly. So I guess it's been a little radio silence since then, but. How likely do you think that this is going to happen, Decker? Do you think Chandler Jones to the Vikings could be a real possibility?
So, I think it could be a very real possibility. With the Pat P connection, obviously Patrick Peterson really wants Chandler Jones on the team. He knows what he can bring on the field and the locker room and that. But will it happen by regular season? Still yet to be seen. Obviously, if we can remember from last year, Yannick Ngakoue, in preseason time, right at the end of camp, and when preseason started, was acquired by Rick Spielman, made the trade with the Jaguars for a 3rd-round pick for Ngakoue. Obviously didn't pan out, lasted about 5 weeks, but I could see Chandler Jones. I could also not at this point, just because Stephen Weatherly's been having a good camp lately. I'll say the entire D-line's had a very good camp lately. Patrick Jones has been very good. Our 3rd-round pick out of Pitt, he's been very, very good in the training camp as well. And Janarius Robinson's been very solid as well. But we're kind of been doing a rotation there. Danielle Hunter's Zimmer's got him playing right end, left end, going back and forth. Danielle Hunter's been an animal in camp. But yeah, if we want to go out and get Chandler Jones, maybe a 3rd-round pick, 2nd-round pick, as we said before in a past episode. But I think now with camp going on, what we've been seeing, I think maybe the chance are going down a little slim. But if we get towards regular season time, we aren't getting as much production from the opposite Danielle Hunter. Maybe come to the trade deadline, maybe a few weeks before. Maybe Spielman gets aggressive, goes and makes that move. And obviously, I won't be opposed to it, but we'll have to see how that entire situation unfolds.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see what happens there, because I do think it would be interesting to see if a lot of teams are kind of just like waiting to see what happens inside the organization first, because maybe they want to just see like maybe Jones won't will do like a Le'Veon Bell and choose not to play at all. So then the price for Jones will go down because they'll just want to get rid of him. I think that could be a possibility, but I don't really know if that would be a move that Chandler Jones would make. I certainly wouldn't do it if I was in his shoes, but that's definitely a possibility there.
Yeah, and we're kind of seeing this with T.J. Watt right now for the Steelers. Now T.J. Watt isn't doing an official holdout; he's doing more of a hold in, which I'll be honest is kind of the first time I've ever heard of a hold in, where he's doing individual drills with the team, but he's not doing full team 11 on 11 drills. So yeah, I don't see Chandler Jones doing a holdout, but I think the team, if it is the Vikings or if it's another team, that might be a little hesitant on trading him is because you're getting one season. You'd probably be giving up a second or a third round pick, and then he's due for free agency next year, so he's going to want a big contract anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see if maybe Spielman makes a win now move where we just bring him in for a season, let him go to free agency next year. It's really all about how the situation is going to unfold. But yeah, he's going to be a free agent, so he's going to need big money anyway.
That's a good point. Moving on to our third and final big bullet point note. Jeff Gladney, our first round pick from last year, was almost cut from the Vikings because he's he's currently going through sexual assault allegations. Now, it's very important to note that these are still allegations. Nothing is for sure, but it does seem pretty cut and dry that it is true. So that's why he was cut. Personally, I couldn't be happier because he was so hard for me to watch last year.
Yeah, it's one of those situations that, it had to happen. We've seen it in the NFL before. We've seen it with Ray Rice years back where once they got the video surveillance of that, it was an immediate cut. We're kind of seeing it now with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's still having allegations go on. I believe his court date is until next February or March, so he's got the entire season where he could play. But it's really the risk of if anybody's going to trade for him or if the Texans are going to keep him, that risk of like what's going to go on. Is this really the right move? But with Gladney, it happened in April. The signs are more telling now that it's more and more true that all this happened. And as it's going on, the allegations have got a little bit worse. There's been more stories that have come out about it. So, with the Vikings, you can't keep a player like that in the locker room and with the organization. It's just a very bad look. I think we all saw it coming. And but it's a guy that had a lot of potential. He was a first round pick for a reason. So, but you can't do that stuff off the field. And yeah, it's looking, it's obviously now a waste of a first round pick, only getting 1 year out of him. I still would have loved Antoine Winfield at free safety for us at pick 31 at the 2020 draft. But yeah, the entire Gladney situation is just, props to Spielman and the Wills. It just had to happen. Couldn't keep him.
Yeah, that's definitely the truth of it. No, and you mentioning that we could have had Winfield at 31. Oh, that would have been so nice to have him on the team, seeing how he played last year. But, hindsight's 2020, and of course we didn't know that this would happen when he was drafted at the time. So it's just unfortunate, but...
and something I find weird about the entire situation is because Spielman and Zimmer talk about how when these guys come in for pre-draft interviews and pre-draft workouts, they really... sort of pride themselves on they see the person's character and they draft them based on knowing they're going to have good character for their careers. And it just baffles me that Spielman and the Wills and Zimmer and all these guys saw Gladney, they had him in, and they couldn't really tell the character. And it just kind of shocks me when they pride themselves on it that they let a guy like Gladney come in and does a thing like this. And I know Dalvin, when he got drafted by us, he had some off the field issues in college, but he's cleaned himself up and done really good. But yeah, it just shocks me that they didn't really see this in Gladney. So
yeah, that is interesting. I guess you have to admit that. One guy out of the 5 or 6 drafted every year. It's a good track record, but this one really kind of blew up in our face. So that's
it did.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. But to move on to a more lighter note. The recent training camp practices have been going on, and we actually had a man on the inside, and that would be our own Mr. Ethan Decker was at training camp, and he has some notes that he'd like to share.
Okay, yeah. So I was at the night practice on July 31st. I was about 12 days ago. If Vikes Insider, who gave us a shout out, ever finds this podcast and listens to us, I was looking for you, didn't find you. But Vikes Insider has been at every single practice, so I give him dedication for that. But I'm just gonna do a few notes from what I saw. I didn't do no filming. I didn't do an Instagram live or nothing for practice. I just sat back, watched the entire practice, took some mental notes. Now I got them down. My first point being, I want to formally apologize to KJ Osborne. Anybody that watched our roster breakdown, that was our first episode, knew that I was hating on KJ Osborne. I saw what he did last year on special teams. I thought he had no place being on the team anymore. He was a flat out liability last year. All he was punt returner and never saw the field of receiver. We are in training camp now, and KJ Osborne, I just want to apologize. He is looking an entirely different player this year. He's looking very sharp and fast on his routes. He's making contested catches. Everything he's doing so far in camp has been great. Zimmer's been praising him. Clint Kubiak's been praising him. So KJ Osborne's been a real standout. I think he could be a fighter for that wide receiver 3 spot now. And I mean, obviously this has all been in camp, all individual team drills and that, but we'll see come preseason time. But KJ Osborne's been looking flat out terrific. My second point being, now this just happened today, but the first injury that happened was the day I went to the practice, and it got announced the day I went to the practice that BC Johnson had torn his ACL and was out for the year. That was a big blow. Obviously, BC Johnson, young player, I'll still say he's got potential, but that's a big blow for him. But the second one is Blake Pearl tore his ACL in practice today, our undrafted free agent out of East Carolina. So we are currently down 2 receivers with a torn ACL, and we haven't got to the first preseason game yet. D.D. Westbrook is recovering from a torn ACL. So I think my point being is, if Larry Fitz, I know we said this in our predictions, if Larry Fitz wants to come, he can still have a role in this team. We are looking thinner and thinner now with these injuries. And obviously there's no guarantee with Westbrook. I mean, obviously torn ACL is a very, very tough injury to come back from. So, we got obviously Thielen. The Jefferson injury scare obviously was the one that kind of made your heart sink a little bit. But it shows that these guys are human and they can go down. So Larry Fitz, if he still wants to come back, contend for a year, more than welcome, because there's no guarantees with injuries, and with obviously COVID, if you're on the list, you're out for 2 weeks or so. So if Larry wants to come back, I love that. A third point I got, and I just want to kind of give Wantock's opinion on this afterwards too, but Wyatt Davis is currently working on the third team O-line. First team, Dakota Dozier. Second team, Drew Samia. Both have been looking absolutely atrocious in camp. And I know the night I saw them, they were struggling mightily, getting pushed around by guys like Michael Pierce, Danielle Hunter, Dalvin Tomlinson. So I kind of just want to get your take, Wantock, on what you think about what's going on with Wyatt Davis. Is it just not he's ready? Is it he's not ready yet? Is he still kind of maybe trying to find his build in the NFL? And why are we running out Dakota Dozier on the first team when obviously we saw what happened last year?
The fact that Dozier is even close to being on first team, well, I mean he is, but the fact that he's even close and being considered makes me quite concerned. I do imagine that Wyatt Davis it must be a thing that he's not used to the speed of the games yet. I'm sure that you have to keep in mind that with every college team, maybe only a quarter of the guys are really NFL caliber players. So you're not always getting the best guy every time, but when you're in the NFL, those are all the best guys you saw in college. So it's definitely not super unprecedented that he's struggling with going playing at this next level, but it is concerning that he can't make it to second team, or the fact that it's Dozier and who was the second guy again?
Drew Samia.
Yeah, the Crap, I forgot that name as soon as you said it. Crap.
Both of like the worst guards in football last year. They both got steamrolled when they were out there last year for us. Yeah, it's another good point is that Wyatt Davis is taking reps at center as well. I find that quite interesting. Maybe he's more of a center transition in the NFL. Obviously, Bradbury, like we said weeks ago in our breakdown in that, I believe Bradbury's it's a make it or break it year for him. And so far in camp, it's not been the greatest. Michael Pierce has been shoving him around like unreal. Because Bradbury's not a pass protector, he's more of a run blocker. But if the Bradbury experiment just doesn't work out and he ends up being a bust and we get rid of him after the year, it's nice to see that Wyatt Davis maybe is getting reps at center because maybe that more fits him. But yeah, it just absolutely shocks me to see Samia and Dozier consistently out there after what we saw from last year. There's no excuses for why they should be out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I 100% agree with you on that. I mean, I'm sure, of course, we don't have a better answer than, Zimmer probably does or any of the O-line coaches do. Maybe there is a good reason, like they're trying to take him slowly, trying to get him more acclimated, but it's not a good sign if you're behind those guys. So I'm a little worried, but I'm also not if that's a good answer.
Yeah. Another guy out there that is having a good camp, though, and has been getting praised. Another guy I actually forgot to mention who's also been taking first-team reps at right guard, Oli Udoh, third-year player for us. He was a sixth-round pick out of Elon, which was a Division II school. He's a big boy. He's a natural right tackle, but he's moving to right guard, and I've been taking reps there. And my bet is he will be our Week 1 starting right guard. Hopefully, all preseason goes well on that, but he's been looking good, and I think it more fits him. Back when he started the Week 17 game of 2019 when we had our playoffs spot clinched up, he shut down Khalil Mack of the Bears. Really moved his feet well with him. So I think maybe at guard, maybe that suits him a little bit better. I'm loving what he's been doing in camp. I think why not give him a shot? We know what we can get we know what we have in Samia and Dozier. That's never going to work. Mm-hmm. Give Oli Udoh a chance. Put him right next to O'Neal and Bradbury. And I'm excited to see where that could possibly go. To move off the O-line subject now, my fourth point being, the day I was there on July 31st, Kellen Mond got COVID-19. He was a close contact with Kirk and Nate Stanley. I'm led to believe that Jake Browning was the only quarterback in that room vaccinated. I think everybody else was non-vaxxed. I believe it was Kellen Mond. At first they said was vaccinated, but then it came back and said he was non-vaxxed. So Jake Browning that night did terrific. Did every single rep for us. He was the only quarterback, and Jake Browning looked terrific. I think that Kellen Mond comes the season now will be our third string quarterback. Jake Browning will be the backup, and we'll keep three quarterbacks. I think Nate Stanley probably gets cut. Danny Etling was a quarterback we brought in who's had previous experience with the Patriots and Seahawks as backups. He might be a practice squad quarterback. Nate Stanley might get cut. But I think it's a good point being that the Vikings can still go out and get a veteran backup quarterback because, let's say, we all know Kirk's stance. He's not vaccinated. He probably won't be getting vaccinated. If he ends up on that COVID list and has to miss 2 games or 3 games or whatever it might be, how comfortable we're going to be with Jake Browning? Maybe we give him a week and it turns out to be a complete disaster. Obviously, Kellen Mond has lost. He just returned to practice today, but he's missed about a week and a half. He's not up to speed. There's still some veteran guys out there like Matt Moore, and obviously, I'm not going to say this is might will happen, but Phillip Rivers is obviously open to returning to a team that might need him down the stretch. But it's interesting with Kirk. I mean, the front office, Zim. Everybody's been very vocal about the displeasure behind this because this is really make it or break it year for them. So I just kind of want to get your thoughts, Wantock, on the whole situation with Kirk. If he goes down, we're probably done. But maybe Jake Browning, maybe he fares well, maybe he doesn't. But I still think maybe it would be smart to go get a veteran backup who's had the experience.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you on getting a veteran because I really would I mean, like you said, it would be terrible if Kirk couldn't play because he got COVID. That would be worst case scenario because I really don't think anyone else can on the roster can currently get it done. So yeah, I mean definitely grab a veteran. When you were saying those names, I was looking to see if Case Keenum was on the team, and I was really disappointed to see he's on the Browns. I mean, good for him, obviously, to be on a team.
He's Baker's backup. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, but I thought, oh man, if Case could come back, that would make me so happy. I'd feel like a little kid again watching Case on the field. So that's unfortunate that we won't be able to get him because I don't think we should trade for anyone, but signing someone would definitely be a very good idea. Someone with more experience to back up. Well, Browning will probably be the two, like you said, to have that to have the extra insurance would definitely be a very good thing, given the fact that players can be gone for so long if they get COVID. So yeah.
And I think a little bit of a hot take for me right now. This might be a hot take. This might not be one to some, but I think this probably is Kirk's last year with us. I think especially what's happened over the past 2 weeks with everything going on with being a close contact for COVID, being non-vax. The front office is upset. Zim's been upset, and Kirk and Zim have never really had a true relationship like some quarterback and head coaches like a Breeze and Sean Payton and a Brady and Belichick years ago. But Zim and Cousins never really had that relationship, so I think Cousins is probably is it for him. Kirk Zim was never a guy to want to go out and pay a big time quarterback, and he obviously would have loved to just sign Keenum back for the cheap. But it's starting to look like this won't be Kirk's team come next year. But a fifth point for me now. Christian Darrisaw is still hurt. I think back in January, February, once the college football season ended, after their bowl game at Virginia Tech, Darrisaw underwent groin surgery, and they labeled it as core surgery. He's still recovering from that. He won't be... this is just a point of being out there. He will not be in this first preseason game this upcoming Saturday for the Vikings against the Broncos. He's only been, he didn't practice the night I was there. He's only done some, I don't think he's really done team drills. He's only done, lineman drills. So Darrisaw still hurt is a big concern. Point being off that, Rashad Hill, obviously been with us for a while. He's usually the swing lineman we got as a sixth lineman if we need it. And he's always been the main backup at left tackle or both tackles. But it's a concern for me. We after the draft and after draft week was over, I was just filled with joy because we go draft Darrisaw, who can be a franchise left tackle. We got Ezra Cleveland, second year at left guard. Bradbury, sure, not the greatest, but can be serviceable. Obviously, he's great in run, not so great in pass. But Wyatt Davis in the third round right guard, and obviously one of the best right tackles of the game, Brian O'Neill. And now we're here, and it's the first preseason game coming up this Saturday, and Darrisaw's hurt, hasn't been doing much in training camp. Davis, for some reason, is on the third team reps at right guard, taking some center drills. And it's looking like that same old line we've seen for years now. And I'm starting to kind of believe come week one, Rashad Hill will end up starting at left tackle for us. And the old line's the same as it always been. Rick doesn't want to spend on it. It's just starting to look like the same old.
Yeah, that's something I've always been afraid of is the fact that like the draft picks aren't going to work out. But I think that's why I want to call back quick to you saying that Kirk is probably going to be his last year. And honestly, I do think that that's probably for the best just because it'll definitely make cap space a lot more movable. Because look at a lot of these championship teams. And they all have very young, talented guys who don't have the big contract yet, and so that they can build around them more with that cap space. Or there's a Tom Brady who doesn't take the big paycheck, so that you can build around him. And so I think really for this roster to really actually get to the next level, we need the young guy, or the guy who doesn't need the big paycheck, so we can really just make the rest of the roster beautiful, and then make it work from there. So I do think that the O-line will probably stay the same until that happens, unfortunately. But yeah, I really hope that Darisaw does get better and can play by week 1. Fingers crossed, and that Wyatt Davis gets his stuff figured out for sure.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give a quick shout out to the Chiefs here. This obviously is not a Chiefs podcast. I'm not a supporter of the Chiefs, but I will give them a big shout out here. In the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes was running for his life, something he had never done before. He was getting pounded, and the Chiefs looked at it in the offseason and they go, no, this is not going to happen again. What do? They go out, they go pay a Joe Tooney, they go trade for Orlando Brown, a left tackle. They get Kyle Long to come out of retirement. They get Laurent Duvernay-Tardif back. They go sign the former center from the Rams, Blythe, for a 1-year deal or whatever. And that's what I love to see from an organization. We sit here for years and get nothing. And the biggest thing from that is their quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, an MVP, a bona fide going to be Hall of Famer one day, takes a restructure in his contract, something that Kirk did not do this year. Patty Mahomes went from $35 million in a cap hit this year down to $7 million, so they could go sign a guy like Joe Tooney, go trade for Orlando Brown. Now look at if Kirk would have done that for us, we could have had the flexibility to go get a Joe Tooney and have flexibility in the cap space for Orlando Brown. And that's how winning teams win these championships, is players making sacrifices, and we don't have that. So I just want to give that quick praise to the Chiefs for doing that.
1 second. 35-7?
Yep.
That's... sorry, this is a family podcast, but that's fucking wild. Holy crap.
But that's how these winning teams do it. That's the sacrifices these star players have to make. And Patty's obviously just wants to win, so I got to give big props to those guys. I really do.
Yeah, that's that is really something. So that's the end of the shitting on Kirk segment.
Yeah.
Is there any more training camp notes you want to share? Or
okay, I got 2 more.
Okay.
This will be the 6th point I got. More on the positive side, the D-line is looking great. Michael Pierce before camp obviously had that little calf strain. Some were a little bit worried, because they said it was like a tweak or whatever, and obviously from last year we knew a tweak for Danielle Hunter ended up being season-ending. But Michael Pierce has worked his way back in. He's getting more involved day by day. It looks like he's going to be fine for week 1. He's looking great. Dalvin Tomlinson's looking great. Danielle Hunter looks like he hasn't missed an absolute beat. Zimmer's got him going from right end to left end. He's going to be very versatile. Weatherly's looking fine, like I said. Patrick Jones, Jarius Robinson, those guys were very deep. Sheldon Richardson coming in on third down for passing situations. And Michael Pierce has also been rushing the passer a little bit in camp, so he's not just a run stuffer. He can get after the quarterback as well. So D-line's looking great. For the linebacker spot, obviously Barn Kendrick secured. The big question for camp has always been third linebacker spot. Right now it looks like Nick Vigil, our free agent signing from the Chargers, is in the lead for that. He's still competing with a guy like Cam Smith. Didn't play for us, had open heart surgery last year. Third year for us. And Chaz Surratt, our third round pick out of North Carolina. But yeah, Nick Vigil looks like he's been taking the lead in that competition. And then my last point being that I can think of is that Irv Smith Jr. and Tyler Conklin both having amazing camps. I mean, best thing we could do on, obviously a very great Viking all time, and Kyle Rudolph had to be cut, but Irv and Conklin are making unreal contested catches. They got speed, they got everything. They're flashing the pan at us this offseason. So Irv and Conklin, I got big years coming for them. It sounds like Clint Kubiak, new offensive coordinator, wants to get more involved. It's looking great. I think the offense is going to be very explosive once again.
Yeah, that's something I'm definitely really excited to see. As Irv and Conklin at work, because they've always really, because with Rudolph on the roster, they've always taken a back seat. I mean, rightfully so. Rudolph is always very good, very serviceable. So I'm really excited to see what Irv can do, because he's always looked good whenever he gets the ball, and to see him get more of a workload could be awesome. And so those were the training camp notes. Decker, our chief correspondent, really came in with some good notes, and I mean all the things he said about the D line, the tight ends, and KJ Osborne, that really surprised me. Uh, I mean that makes me excited to see what could happen in this next preseason game, which, as we mentioned, is this Saturday versus the Broncos. We're not going to really go too much into I mean who we think's going to win or stuff like that, because that's not what the preseason's really about. It's about seeing what these guys can do. I mean, win or lose, as long as it's not a blowout, I will be fine with a loss in the preseason. But just one thing that we want to mention about the Broncos is that Drew Lock will be playing, and Teddy Bridgewater is not playing. Is there a reason why Teddy's not playing? Did he get hurt or something, or what?
No. So, reason behind that, I'm hearing that Vic Fangio, their head coach, said that it's still very open in that entire quarterback competition. Obviously, I believe the Rodgers rumors to Denver rumors have shut down. Rodgers will be in Green Bay, but Drew Lock sounds like he will for sure be starting against Minnesota come Saturday, and Teddy Bridgewater will start their next preseason game come next Saturday for the Broncos. So they're going to be kind of doing Lock this week, Bridgewater next week, and then probably once the third and final preseason game comes around, probably be doing a couple series for Lock, a couple series for Bridgewater, then really decide who'll be the opening day starter for the Broncos.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense, because I didn't think anything happened to Teddy. So, I mean, I want to see Teddy get the job. As much as well, Decker knows, as much as I loved my Drew Lock in Madden, I mean, I want nothing but the best for Teddy, so I hope that he can get the job locked in. And then to talk about our quarterback situation, Kirk is going to be limited to just a couple drives, most likely, and Kellen Mond will not be playing. So that's something to look into. So I'm guessing that Browning's probably going to get a majority of the snaps. How excited are you to see him playing?
No, I think I'm very excited. Kirk, we'll probably get, like we usually see every year, the starting quarterback is about a series in there, and then we shift to the backup. Kellen Mond, for obvious reasons, won't be playing. Obviously, the week and a half out, he's still not up to speed. We gotta still get him in game shape. Browning in the start really excites me because he's had such a very, very good camp, very solid. He's been getting good connections with Jefferson and Thielen and Irv. So I'm very excited to see that. Always excited to see what the backups can do. Excited to see what guys like maybe Nate Stanley has a good performance, Danny Etling, those type of guys. So obviously it stings to not see what Mond can do, but Browning's really, really getting me excited this offseason.
Yeah, definitely. And to also mention, as we've said multiple times in this podcast, Darisaw is injured still with that groin injury and that surgery recovery. So he's not going to be playing during this preseason game, which I'm perfectly fine with because I want him to be healthy for the actual regular season. There's no point to go out there if you don't feel like you can perform at your best. So definitely a good call to not have him playing. But I guess I want to move on to my question about this preseason game. I'll extend this to Decker, and I'll also answer this question. So who are you most excited to see on the field for this preseason game?
Yeah, I kind of already said it from the beginning of this episode. KJ Osborne. I really want to see what the hype's all about. Obviously, I saw live. He's freaking unreal this offseason and in camp. He's, like I said earlier, his route running is sharp. He's got the speed. He's making the catches. He's not been dropping nothing. He's been doing punt returns too, but I'm overall just excited. I know what I can get from him at punt returner. Obviously, we hope it's obviously better than it was last year, but I really want to see what he can do as a wide receiver because ever since we drafted him, he hasn't seen the field at wide receiver. So a guy like that, I just really excited to see if he can really take that role and get the wide receiver 3 spot because, like I said earlier, BC Johnson and Blake Pearl, torn ACLs, both out for the year. Depth's looking a little bit thinner, so Someone's got to step up, whether it be KJ Osborne, Chad Beebe, Dan Chisena, guys like that. So that's what I'm most excited to see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Osborne's a really good pick, but I think that the guy that I really want to see in this game is probably I'd go with Irv Smith Jr. because I mean he's been around for a couple seasons now, and I've always been waiting to see his big break. He's always been very good when he gets the chance, but he hasn't had a chance to really break out. And this season could definitely be his chance. And if he gets the reps in, if he gets to play more in this game, I'd be really excited to see what he can do. So I think Irv's my pick, but really, I just want to watch some gosh darn football.
Yeah, it's been too long.
Exactly.
And a point being on that as well, I also got a second player that I'm really excited to see Saturday that I didn't mention yet. Kanena Wangu, fourth round pick, running back out of Iowa State. He's got the kick return and punt return ability, as we saw in college at Iowa State. But I tell you what, he's another guy whose speed, I saw live, it's unreal. He can there's not many players in the NFL that can turn the corner and just keep their speed and momentum going, and he's one of them. I mean, obviously, like Tyreek Hill is very special at doing that. Kanena Nwangu can be that. I'm not saying he's going to be the type of player as Tyreek Hill, but speed-wise, Nwangu can do it all. And we've been seeing more and more of Dalvin and the Wildcat in Clint Kubiak's offense in camp so far. I'd be curious to see if we incorporate that in the preseason game this upcoming Saturday, or in the preseason at all, and we carry that over to the regular season. But I could see us keeping 4 running backs right now with Cook, Madison, Abdullah, and Nwangu, where Abdullah, in the first official depth chart that just got released, is leading in the kick returner and punt returner spots. But I could see them keeping 4 and doing like a Cook and Nwangu type of combination out there in the offense. But I love what I'm seeing from Nwangu. Very, very special.
Yeah, I'm definitely really excited to see what he can do too. I watched some of his highlights from college, and he just looked fantastic in those. Of course, those just are the highlights.
Blazing speed.
Yeah, exactly. He was
blazing
so
speed.
Fast. So, yeah, he's definitely a guy I want to add to my honorable mention as someone I want to watch as well.
Yeah.
And so now to move on to our final segment, we have some Q&A questions, some question and answer questions, and this is our official first Q&A segment. So that's very exciting. And there is one man who can say that he had the first ever question answered on the SkolChat podcast, and his question was, do you think my life-size Teddy Bridgewater wall sticker will distract my girl during intercourse?
I'm gonna say that is not a distraction. I think maybe Teddy in the background would almost increase that and help, because that gives you motivation. This is a guy that almost lost his leg 5 years ago with us, and you look at this guy and you think motivation, and it makes you want to continue.
I 100% agree with you on that. That man is incredible. I mean, if anything, that makes me want to put on 2 football gloves while I'm doing intercourse, because that's the man I want to strive to be. But I guess what he's wondering is, will this maybe stop the girl from noticing how terrible you are during intercourse, is probably what he's asking. So do we think that a woman would be interested in a life-size Teddy Bridgewater wall sticker?
From the woman's perspective, depending on if she's a Viking fan, if she's not, probably not. If she is a casual Viking fan, I still think probably not. Maybe if she's a diehard, maybe she loves it too. Maybe that's how you guys have that connection, because it's motivation when you see Teddy. It all depends on the woman, I think.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I don't think the average woman would care so much. I think what would make it the most interesting is if it's like, I should mention that the life size is in quotes. Life is actually like a 6'2" wall sticker. Now that could just be like enough like for sheer size. Like I mean that's a massive sticker to have on your wall. But if it's like not really life size, it's just a really big sticker, I don't think anyone's going to be impressed. You really got to go big or go home.
Yeah.
When you're talking a Bridgewater wall sticker, because of
I want to know where that sticker where you got that sticker as well. I've never seen a life size Bridgewater sticker.
Yes, if you're listening to this, the person who submitted this question, please send a link to your wall sticker person, because I think I might have to test this out for myself and see if it is useful. I'll get back to you on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving on to our next question. As Vikings fans, what do you guys find works best to cope with the very mediocre seasons? Now, I don't like how this is worded. What do you mean, very mediocre seasons?
So there's obviously been some mediocre seasons. There's also been some great seasons. Oh boy, how do I cope with it?
I would definitely say that my way of coping is definitely just waiting for the draft. But with mediocre, I'm assuming that you're talking about 8-8. So like, we're not getting the top guy, and we're also not being very successful. So the draft is not really a good choice. I mean, I would just say a good ice cold Mountain Dew is enough to really help me make it through a bad season or a mediocre season, as you worded it.
Yeah. I think my biggest coping is I still watch the playoffs, but sometimes a break from football usually helps me out, because usually mediocre season like that or big time playoff losses always will take me like maybe 2 weeks or so to recover. It stings for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then free agency, thinking about the possibility of the off-season free agency. What could we do? What could we not do? That type of stuff keeps me going.
Oh yeah, no, I would definitely agree. Just like the prospect of a better season is always what helps me keep going.
And obviously after a very mediocre season last year, and a COVID season, we are looking very forward to this year, where this roster might be the best we've had in the Zimmer era, or at least since 2017, going to the NFC Championship game.
That is very true. So, I guess to really answer your question, to cope is by just being optimistic for the future, or Mountain Dew is probably the best way to answer that. Moving on. Would you prefer a worse season in hopes of a better draft pick? No, definitely not. I guess what I would rather have is to be like either really crap or really good, because I wouldn't want to, because I never like being right in the middle, where like you don't get to go to the postseason, you don't get to have the chance of like, winning the whole thing. But if you're really bad, you get that top 5 pick, which is also really fun. So,
it's tough for me too, because I'm so competitive. I love winning. I just want to see winning. And the Vikes could have done this last year. Obviously, the 1-5 start, we could have just said, F it, screw it, let's tank the season, go for a top 3, top 5 pick or whatever. But it's tough, because when you're in the situation like we were, and you get the 13th pick and then trade back, that's always tough to beat, because you're not going to get the most the elitist of the elite prospects, but you're still going to get someone solid. But I love winning, and I just want to see winning football.
Exactly.
That's all I want.
Yeah, and I would say with the way the team is right now, like, I want the winning seasons with the way like our current roster is. So yeah, so it's like, so right now, definitely not. If we were really crap, then I would prefer to be really crap, than be mediocre.
Yeah,
And so this last question that I have, the person who sent it kind of worded it in a weird way, so I kind of rephrased it. So I hope it still kind of answers your question. But what is a realistic floor and ceiling you see the Vikings being at in the NFC? So from 1 to 16, where's the floor and where's the ceiling? Seed wise.
So if I'm kind of thinking so I'm kind of thinking like for me, kind of I'm thinking record wise. So I think a good floor for us would be, oh, I'd like to say like 9-8. I think that would be like worst case. Maybe still fighting for a wild card, 9-8. Who knows how the NFC is going to play out? But and I think a ceiling is probably like me and Wantock put down like 12-5 now. I was gonna almost say 11-5, but obviously with the added game, 12-5. I think that's like obviously we could say 14-3 or something like that would be the absolute peak season, but I think realistically probably 12-5. Worst case, 9-8, maybe still squeaking in there as a wild card.
Yeah, no, I'd probably agree with you on that with like record wise. I think maybe I'm being a little optimistic with the floor. I don't have an exact record, but I don't think that this team will like totally miss the playoffs entirely. I mean, if we don't make the playoffs, it's going to be close.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that would happen if we completely just missed the playoffs and everything went wrong would be Kirk tears an ACL or Jefferson goes down or Cook goes down or something goes completely wrong injury-wise or like a COVID outbreak happens or something that just shifts the season. But that would be the only reason I could see an entire like tank of the season where we just completely miss.
Yeah, exactly. And then a good ceiling would be. I will say that I don't think that there's any way we get the 1 seed. Not saying that. Not trying to jinx it by saying that we don't get the 1 seed. Like there's no way, but it's just with teams like Tampa, being in there. I think that Tom Brady and the Bucks are a definite 1 seed in my mind. Just how they have the
and
yeah, they re-signed all their starters, so I don't see how they don't win it. But I would say a number 2 seed winning the division is definitely not out of the realm of possibility. Because I do think we can win the division. Because really it's just a race between us and the Packers at this point, if you ask me. So I would say
like you said, with the Bucks, like you said, with the Bucks and Brady probably being the 1-seeder in that contention. Obviously, Packers looking a lot better with Rodgers back. If they didn't have Rodgers there, obviously it wouldn't be in the talks, but with Rodgers being back is huge. And with the Rams, with adding Stafford and that team, there can be in contention. And then I don't want to completely count out the Saints. They still got their main core minus Breeze. So it's gonna be competitive in NFC. So, but let's see if the Vikings can be right in there as well.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be competitive. I'm excited to see how this season's going to play out. But anyways, that concludes this segment of Q&A and this episode of the SkolChat. If you have any questions you would like to submit and have us answer on the podcast, you can send us a DM on Instagram. That is @skol.chat. You can also shoot us an email. That is askskolchat@gmail.com. That is askskolchat@gmail.com. But yep, that's our show. Have a good night, everyone.